welcome,
Very nice.
Ursula Mentjes.
That was fun. And what that did not say is she's our next new millionaire. Give her a hand.
It's happening. Well, how many of you feel like you could really achieve something if you knew exactly what it is that you wanted? Raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you, maybe recently, have heard the whispers, those soul whispers, that maybe you should be doing something else? Or maybe you should add something else to what you've been doing. My name is Ursula Mentjes, founder of Sales Coach Now, best-selling author of Selling with Intention and One Great Goal. And I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you, Retha, for inviting me to be here. We've gotten to connect at different events. You were at Sales Coach Now Live and Dare to Dream with Amanda. And it's been a pleasure connecting with you. But I see your dream is unfolding here today. And I just want to congratulate you. Let's recognize her. Because what I know is that something is going to happen for every single one of you today. It is not by coincidence that you are in this room. Don't think that. God's got a bigger plan. Closing doors, opening other doors, closing doors, and now you're here. And you're supposed to be here. What did you come here today for? What is that whisper that you feel in your stomach sometimes, the thing that keeps floating up? What is that? And as much as I love talking about sales and selling, as Dr. Wright was sharing, and I wrote Selling with Intention, that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to do one great goal, because I want you to figure out what your one great goal is before you leave here today. Raise your hand if you're willing to play with me. All right, let's do this. Now, I usually do this an entire day. My commitment to Retha is I'm going to give as much as I can in 30 minutes. I talk fast, and then I'll talk slowly, and I'll talk really fast, but you're going to get everything you need. Does that sound good? And by the time we finish, you're going to have 2 action steps that you're going to take when you leave here, because it's not enough just to come up with ideas. Every training that I do, my clients, my students have steps that they take and they move forward. Is everyone committed to moving forward?
Yes.
Because imagine if everybody in this room figured out what they really wanted and took one step forward, what would happen? And imagine if everyone in this room was actually living in their one great goal, in their purpose, and what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Because Dwight stood up and inspired us. Dr. Wright has inspired us. Retha has inspired us. All of our speakers have already inspired us. More speakers are coming today, right? And if they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they weren't living in their purpose, we couldn't even have this experience. So ask yourself right now, is it possible that you are doing a disservice to the people that you are supposed to be serving? There's a book by David Giocondi. It's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money, Abundance in the Here and Now, something like that. Some of you have heard of that book. It's phenomenal, right? And one of the things he talks about is that when you feel that calling and that desire deep in your heart, deep in your soul to do something, you are being called to do that. You become the answer to someone else's prayers. And when I heard that, it was one of the most powerful reminders that I've ever had. So I want to draw you into this experience today. I want to take you on a journey so that you can step into who you already know you are. Before I do that, though, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself so you know what I'm up to. So anyway, we're going to talk about the One Great Goal story. I'm going to share that with you. I'll talk about what might be stopping you from reaching your one great goal. I'm going to take you through the One Great Goal process, and I'll talk about how you can spend 60 days with me if you so choose. But I also have some great gifts that I'm going to give away. Ready? All right, so this past, like a week ago, I was in Hawaii. Never been to Hawaii. Everybody in California. How many of you have been to Hawaii? Okay, like almost all of you. What is this? I thought, everybody I talked to was, oh, they're like, what island are you going to? I've been there. It's so great. So my husband and I had never been, and I'm not from California, so I told my husband, I said, before we leave California, and if we do, we got to get to Hawaii, because it's, only 6 hours from here or whatever. If we fly from the Midwest, it's going to take us forever. So we decided, and we decided to go to Oahu. And of course we land, it's peace on earth. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And it was a wonderful experience. But the reason I'm sharing this picture with you is because I'm sitting with Janae Dana. She's the CEO of My Focus Book. She's in her 20s. She graduated from UCLA in less than 3 years, and she wrote a book. Some of you know Janae, or you've heard of her. Her book just became a bestseller. If you hear her story about growing up and some of the challenges that she had, it would surprise you what she's doing today. But what I want to tell you is that Janae set up one great goal. Her one great goal was to live in Hawaii. And I got to visit her there last week. So I want to inspire you to think about what it is that you want. Yeah, give her a round of applause. It was one of those great moments when we got to be there together. And now she's also, her company's doing work for my company now, so it's been a lot of fun seeing her grow and growing with her. She's in her 20s. Come on. Nobody handed anything to her. And, it was interesting when Dwight was sharing his story and you were sharing about not being ashamed of your story. And I think that's so important because we all have, or somebody said that, but it's so important to be able to share where we've come from and what we've been through. And what a lot of people don't know about me is I grew up on a farm. A lot of people know I grew up on a farm in Minnesota. What they don't know is that I grew up in a farm of domestic violence. On the farm, there's a lot of violence. We lived in a rural community where, alcoholism runs wild. And I love my parents dearly, but we went through a lot. And I actually moved out when I was 15. I got my first job when I was 14, moved out when I was 15, put myself through college, went to a little college called St. Olaf, a little Lutheran school in Northfield, Minnesota. Okay, well, somebody knows. Everyone's always like, that's where the Golden Girls are from. No, that's not a real place. Northfield, Minnesota is a real place. And I got a degree in psychology and communication. And when I graduated, I thought I was going to go to law school because I grew up at a time when all the family farms were kind of going by the wayside. And my parents said, you probably need to get a good education. And, with all of their challenges, my parents did the best that they could. And they still wanted us to have more and be more. And I appreciate that so much about them. And so I got this degree, my liberal arts degree, and when I finished, I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? What's next? Anyone have a liberal arts degree? You go, what am I going to do? And I thought I wanted to go to law school, but I realized I was going to have to pay for law school, and I didn't have the money to pay for it. That's how I ended up getting a job in outside sales, because I needed the money. And I heard that you could make a lot of money in outside sales. And so I moved to Boulder, Colorado with a friend of mine, was working at Pier 1 Imports, making $6.25 an hour in retail. And one day I met a woman. And she was walking through the line, we started chatting. She was the branch manager for an international computer training consulting company. We connected, and she said, what are you looking to do? And I told her. Because at that point, I had gotten all in. I had gotten completely committed to what it is that I wanted to achieve. And we're going to talk about that today, because until you're all in, it doesn't get easy. Now, it's never always easy, but I'll tell you, when you see the people who are up front here and they make it look easy, it's because they're all in. They're 100% committed to this path. Long story short, I took this job with this international computer training and consulting company, started my career in sales, had to make 100 calls a day before I could go home every day. Anyone ever had to do that? It's fun, right? Not. And at that point, I thought, it's got to be easier than this. So I started educating myself. I read every book on sales. I read all the books by Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy. At that point, Jeffrey Gitomer was just coming out with the Sales Bible. I was reading and trying to absorb as much as I could. And I started to realize this could get easier. And at that time, I read a book by Brian Tracy called The Psychology of Selling, and I read another book called The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. And I put those two ideas together, and Selling with Intention was born. And in the next 5 years, I went from just 23 years old in an outside territory to opening offices across the country to being transferred out to Southern California, where I opened and took over actually a failing branch in Santa Ana, California. That branch was losing $60,000 a month. In 3 years, we grew that office to selling $3 million a month, 10 times what the average branch was doing, because we understood the power of selling with intention. We understood what it meant to take care of our clients. We understood all of that. That's another book. I have it here today. I'm going to give one away. And that's that story. But at that point, one day, my one great goal became that I wanted to be CEO of this company. And at that point, I was in my 20s, and I thought, well, who am I to be that, right? Because we question ourselves and we get in our own way. But I thought, I'm all in. And within a couple of years, they didn't know what to do with me anymore because I'd outperformed everyone else because I stayed focused on those goals. And at the age of 27, I became president and CEO of a $20 million company. And I share that with you not to say, look at me. I share that to say, I didn't have any experience. I didn't know what I was doing. We make it up. Now I'm an entrepreneur. I get to make it up every day. And no one's going to decide for you, though. No one's going to I was waiting for like this magic wand to be tapped on the head to say, you could be the CEO. No one was going to do that. No one's going to do it for you, but you already have that inside of you. Your magic wand is inside of you telling you exactly what you need to do. You all know. We're going to get clarity on that in a minute, though. So that's my story. So actually, here's the interesting story. So I thought the family farm was going to go by the wayside, right? So I have a younger sister. She's 11 years younger than me. That's Anna, my sissy. And look at me, I look all California in my California jacket, and she's like, I had just flown in to visit that day really quickly, but I was like, let's go out, I want to see the cows, I want to see what you're up to. She's now running the family farm. And in California, we call this an organic farm, so that's the full story. So I get to go back to the farm now and hang out with her. So my one great goal was to become CEO of a company. And I want you to start to think about what it is you want. I'm going to take you through that process in a moment. Are you guys getting excited? Yeah. Is it time to figure out what the heck you want? Yeah. All right, so really some quick other stories. So I founded my own company and got really clear on what I wanted, got really clear on those goals. And what I found when I was focusing on one rather than a whole bunch of goals, they would come to fruition. And all of you coaches and business owners, you know, when you're focused on one or two things, it can come to fruition. But when you've got all those ideas, as Dr. Ray was talking about, all those entrepreneurial, shiny things over here that we're looking at, that's where we get confused and we get stuck. So I got really clear that when I republished Selling with Intention with a publisher out of New York, that Brian Tracy was going to endorse that book on the cover, and he did, and I didn't know him. And if you want to know the story, you'll have to come up and we'll chat about it later. But it was through the power of intention and clarity that Brian showed up and endorsed Selling with Intention. Laurel Langmeyer, this is fun. This is talk about the power of intention. I was at one of Laurel's, some of you have heard of her, 5 times New York Times bestselling author. She's one of my mentors. And I won a sales contest at one of her events, but talk about the power of intention because I didn't know how anyone else in that room was doing, but I was clear on the goal. Are you getting this? When you're clear on the goal, it can happen. You got to get clear on your intention. A year ago, I decided that I wanted Selling with Intention to become a bestseller. I'll tell you something. I self-published that book in 2005. Most people would tell you not to do a bestseller campaign. Your war market has been sold out. It's done. It's over. And I thought, they're wrong. Not only that, I'm going to make it a bestseller. Not only that, but I'm not going to pay $35,000. There's people that sell packages, and God bless them, because that's a good business. But I decided I wasn't going to do that. I thought, what is the fastest and easiest way to hit #1 on Amazon? There's got to be a better way, and I figured it out. In fact, Janae Dana, who I showed you earlier, just used that same methodology that we made up. We get to make it up, right? And just hit #1 on Amazon. Do you get this? It is not that hard. It is not that difficult. We make it difficult. We make it hard. So here's what might be stopping you. I want to talk about these things before we go into the clarification process. #1, and you have a worksheet, you can write these things down. At top, it says one great goal story. There's a little space there. But here's what might be stopping you. And here's what I see in my experience of coaching hundreds, now thousands of entrepreneurs and sales professionals, that the reason you haven't achieved your goals yet, #1, is you don't know what you want. You've got too many ideas. And the second you get committed to something, you think, well, what about this, or what about this? Or my favorite is you have a backup plan. And I want to tell you that it's time to burn the backup plan. Right, Dr. Wright? You got to burn the backup plan. Because I talk to entrepreneurs all the time, and they're telling me they got this one leg back here and this one leg. They're like, this is what I want to do. I want to be up here. And I'm like, well, what are you doing now? Well, I got this side business and this side business, or they've got 3 or 4. I'm like, no. Pick one. I get recruited all the time. As you can imagine, I'm a sales coach. Every network marketing company in the world wants me to come on board, and people are still... I sit through presentations all the time because I want to see them and I actually want to coach them. But the truth is, I know where I'm going and I know what I want and I have to stay focused, and it's the same for you. I love network marketing, but pick one. One company, right? Right, CJ? Yeah. You're focused on that one company now and you're doing it. You're doing it. #2, what's stopping you? Your beliefs. These are beliefs about self, beliefs about the economy. By the way, I had my best years ever during the economy, so did a lot of my clients. We had our first 6-figure day this year. You get that? Wow. Fun, right? Yeah. It's about asking for it. It's about getting clarity, about tracking your numbers. It's about all of those things. But I also had to believe that it was possible. And it starts inside of us. And here's what I want you to get about this. When you ended up on this planet, God made you perfectly. You are already enough. There's nothing outside of you that you need. There's nothing outside of you that you need to change. What you need to shift is inside. One of the belief changes that I do with my clients often is moving from not believing in themselves to one simple belief, which is, I am enough. You already are. And when you start saying it to yourself, you start believing it. You might want to write that one down. Number 3, you haven't decided. You still have the backup plan. It's still sort of back here. You're thinking, sounds good, but you're not all in. I want to help you get all in. And you know when you're all in, it's a different feeling. It's a feeling of commitment and confidence. You're here. When you're all in, the next step always shows up. It's always there. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books. He talks about the idea that the desire wouldn't even be in your stomach or in your heart or part of you if the opportunity to make it happen didn't already exist. Do you get that? When you get clear on what you want, which is what I'm going to help you do, you're going to see the next steps. You're going to see the opportunities. And guess what? They've been there. Some of them have always been there. And people come up to me afterwards and they're like, oh my gosh, Ursula, you were right. I always get those emails afterwards. You were right. The opportunity was already there. Or if you set a financial goal in your business, the clients, the opportunities, they're there. But you got to get committed. God bless you. And number 4, the boxes we create. This is about the stories that you have. The story, Dwight has a fantastic story about success and overcoming, and God bless your wife. And but you have stepped out of that box. That box does not define you. It didn't hold you back. It is a story that you share to inspire others. He has stepped out. You have the opportunity to tell your story, but it cannot define you. It cannot stop you. You know it's stopping you if you're stuck and if you're letting that old story define you and if you're believing what that story is telling you. An effective exercise that we don't have time for today, but you might want to do it with a friend, is to write down the story you've been telling people about why you haven't achieved whatever it is you want to achieve yet. What's that story? Because then you can shift it and you can write a new story. You can tell a new story about what's happening now. Every day I get to write a new story. That's why this is so fun. I mean, you can tell I obviously love what I do. Because I get to inspire people to get out of those boxes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Because I want to find out what you want. So here's what I want you to do. On your worksheet, there's room for you to write down 10 goals. Now, in the interest of time and on the premise of what we're together here for today, I want these goals to be focused on your career, your company, your business. So these are goals focused on what it is you want to show up in career, business, okay? So not so much on the personal side because it could get confusing. So we want it to be really clear. So I want you to, as quickly as you can, I want you to write down your top 10 goals and write them in the present tense as if you've achieved them. So for example, my business is generating $1 million in revenue. Or my new company pays me $100,000 a year. Whatever that is for you, okay? I have flexibility in my schedule. And it could be things like travel. So for example, I now have 5 weeks of vacation if you're working for an employer. Wouldn't that be fun? My brother just got that. 5 weeks vacation, he gets a bonus every year. He totally designed, he had it clear what he wanted. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to start writing, okay? And I'll put out other ideas. So it could be how much time off you have. It could be if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, the kind of business you would start. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to speak to promote your business. Whatever those things are for you. So I'm going to give you a few moments to write as many as you can. And try to avoid writing things like ways of being. So I want to be happy. We know that you want to be that, but we want specific goals that you could achieve. It could be having a conference. It could be having a certain mentor, a coach. Could be being on a television, being on the Dr. Wright show. Could be whatever that is for you. And don't edit. That's my advice for you. If an idea comes up and you go, oh, I couldn't do that, or that's too, meh, just write. Whatever's flowing through you. Books you're going to write. Speaking. People you want to meet. Maybe some of you interview people. I want to interview. What's your ideal schedule? Maybe you only want to work 3 days a week. And you want to make 100,000, 200,000, $1 million. What do you want to do? You could even write what's in your bank account. I talk a lot about money because we're a little messed up in our society about money. My personal mission is to help sales professionals and entrepreneurs make as much money as they can so you can give back to the organizations you care about and so you can live a fantastic life. That's what it's about. If we don't have money, we can't give back. We can't go to conferences, we can't do any of this stuff, right? So we gotta shift those beliefs. And I think, obviously God, spirituality is in business as well. And so devotional time, things like that you want to have in your day. I'm still writing, so I'm going to give you a couple moments. Stretch. See if you can come up with 10 goals. You guys are stretching, getting there. That was fast. You just in like a minute. He knows what he wants. It'd be interesting to see what your one great goal is. How are you guys doing back here? Ooh, fast. Oh, you guys are all done. Wow. Okay. This is a fast group, Retha. They're ready. Yes. They know why they're here. Good, good. David, there you go. God bless you. Amazing. Good. Blessed you many times today. You get that? Everyone was like, God bless you. It's going to be a good day. All right. Everybody ready? It's going to move fast. I'm going to take you through this process. I really want you to get it. Dion's like, Ursula, get back to the front. All right. So if you have 10, anybody have more than 10 goals? Okay, sorry. No, it's good. All right. 10 is perfect. All right. Let's do this. So if you have, here's the first part of this. I want you to release, I'm going to use that word because they're not gone forever, but we're going to release 5 goals if you have 10 to get down to your top 5. So I want you to don't cross out the whole line, just the number in front. So cross out 5 and circle 5. If you have less than 10, let's say you have 7, for example, just cross out 3 and keep your top 5. So we just want, whatever you have, we want you to get to your top 5. So just cross out the number in between and then circle the number in front of your top 5.
So these are our top 5.
Top 5 goals.
Priorities.
Okay. Exactly. The top 5 goals that you know you really want to achieve, that really speak to you. And this is your first instinct. You don't want to edit too much. You just want to go with the ones that speak to you really quickly. What is it that you want? It's talking to you here. Your gut. Whisper in for a while. Maybe it's loud. By the way, when we don't live in our purpose, other stuff shows up. We get sick, financial stuff. When we're in our purpose, like, ooh, this is not that things don't happen, but it's so much easier. And I found in my own, when I actually left corporate America, I was starting to get physically ill. I actually had chronic shingles for 7 years, if you can imagine that. Yeah, and I finally found someone who helped me heal those. It was a very interesting experience, but it was definitely what I called the whispers, and I talk about in my book, One Great Goal, that our physical talks to us, our body's always talking to us and guiding us. All right, you ready? So now look at your top 5, and I want you to release one more, cross up one more, leaving your top 4. And go quickly, you just want to go. Okay? Now look at those top 4, and by doing this process, it's easier for you to actually look at what you have. So release one more, leaving your top 3. Okay? So cross up one more, leaving your top 3. Everybody have their top 3? I know it's like painful. Okay, so now look at your top 3. Notice them. Why are your top 3 important to you? What is it about those 3 that you find inspiring? How long have you been thinking about those top 3? Now, release one more, leaving your top 2. Release one more, leaving your top 2. And when you get your top 2, I want you to circle the entire line so they really stand out and you can see them. So circle your top 2. Everybody have your top 2? Okay, so here's something interesting I want to show you. All right, let's use that one. Okay. Now, nope. There. Okay. If you look at the cover of One Great Goal, there's a comet going across the front, right? See that comet? The idea is that one great goal is very, very powerful. And if you remember from like 5th grade, the front of the comet is what? Anybody remember? Is it the nucleus?
Rocks.
It's like made of rock. It's the powerful front end. The back is called the what? The tail. So I like to think of your goal, your one great goal, as being very powerful with that big rock in the front. And then the secondary goals, the rest of the goals on your list, are the tail in the back. Okay? Now, for some of you, the 2 goals that you have left are kind of the same. Some of you, if you notice that, they're almost the same thing, and you'll combine them, and that becomes your one great goal. For some of you, they're very different. If they're really different, I want you to choose between the 2 and star the goal that's number 1 for you. Okay? So look at those, the 2 that are left, and star the one that's really powerful. Yes, Dr. Wright. Oh, sorry. Got it. Now, here's what's really interesting. Everybody have your one great goal? Okay? I want you to ask yourself this. When you accomplish your one great goal, is it possible that all of the secondary goals on your list will also be accomplished?
Yes.
Thank you. When I became president and CEO of the company when I was 27 years old, I had all kinds of goals that I wanted to achieve. But I got really focused on my number 1 goal, and everything else came into play. Do you get that? So what happens is, rather than spending so much energy on all of these other goals, not that you're not going to take steps with them, when you put your focus on what you really want, you'll naturally take steps with the rest of them. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Okay? All right, so here's what I want you to do next. On the bottom of the paper, it says, what are 2 steps that you can take immediately? So I want you to commit. I want you to not only write the step down that you're going to take, I want you to write down the date by which you're going to achieve that step or take that step. Okay? So 2 steps, and then we'll wrap up. That went fast. And what I'd like to do really quickly is just kind of open it up for questions as well as have people share. But would anyone like to share what this experience was like, or what you learned today, or your one great goal, steps you're going to take? Anyone willing to share what you got from this?
Raise your hand. I'll bring the mic over to you.
Or if you have a question for me.
Questions?
Lisa wants to share.
Okay, I'll be driving around a 40-foot motorhome according to the way I'm thinking.
Okay, well let's hear it then. What happened for you?
It just says narrow down my, I had too many goals.
Yes.
So what this did was narrow it down to make it more visible for me and to see exactly my direction of where I want to go.
Yes. So what do you feel like now knowing this?
I know that I can get there.
Okay.
Okay, I know that it's achievable.
Okay.
I know that the steps that I need to take by eliminating some of these other goals, because they're going to fall in place as soon as I accomplish the goal that you,
Yes.
number 1 goal.
Good.
So that's what I'm looking for.
Good. And do you have your 2 steps set?
My 2 steps set? Yes.
You don't have to share them, but you ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, give Lisa a
I
round
see
of
it.
applause. She's ready. Congratulations. There's motion. Anyone else want to share? Yes, ma'am. Your name again? Kimberly.
My 2 things I'm going to do is choose the business, because I have 2 in mind. So I'm going to, by June 15th, I'm going to choose the business. And then the second thing is, can you tell me, is there a difference between a coach and a consultant? Because that would be the second thing I probably would do.
Oh, that's a really good question. So the International Coaches Federation is sort of one of the governing bodies out there. I'm also I'm trained as a marriage and family therapist. I have a degree in psychology, and so there's the I can't even think of what it's called, but the MFT governing body. Coaching doesn't have that yet, so there's organizations like the International Coaches Federation that were set up to kind of give guidelines for coaches. And so there's a field of coaching which is really pure, where it's all about, the coaching is about the idea that I believe you have all the answers, and as a coach, I bring those answers out of you by asking powerful questions. This is what Yolanda was talking about earlier. A consultant, typically, I'm giving information to you and telling you what to do. Now, having been a sales coach for years, I do both. There's times when I ask powerful questions, and there's other times where I can show you what I've done in my business that I can help you. Does that help?
Yes,